So if you know your comfortable child's pose or what's comfortable for you, go straight there. If you need a few options, look at the screen for a moment. So first one would be to have something behind your knees. Okay, so sometimes the knees won't bend as far and then the sit bones are kind of lifted and you've got to be holding that and it's not as relaxing or as restful. So if you bring a blanket or a pillow right behind your knees, you're going to help with that bend and maybe your sit bones can rest on that pillow. And it's going to be a bit more supportive for those hips. So that would help. Always a block between your legs could also help. And then what you do is you kind of sit on that block. And if you need to stack things up, you could put a blanket over that block, bring it a bit higher, and then go forward. And then what happens is that your hips will be high, right? So then the floor is further away. So there's a long way to go with the torso. So then another prop here. So another block or another pillow to bring the floor a bit higher. And then you could rest your forearms on it or your elbows. And then if you've got your elbows down, you could bring your hands up and then rest your head in your hands. Okay, so that could be a good supported child's pose here when, getting closer to the floor is not that available. So a few options there. Feel free to play with it and see what's going to work best for you today. And then wherever you are, begin to tune into your breath, meaning that you're paying a bit more attention to your next inhale and to your next exhale. And as I was going through those different ways of making this posture work for you, think about that happening throughout your practice. So you're not here to serve the practice, right? The practice is here to serve you. So you want to make the practice, what we do on the mat, work for you. And the more you tune in, you'll notice that some days it will work one way, some days it will work a different way, and that's fine. That's good to know and to modify, so you've got some resilience to adapt to circumstances. And it doesn't mean that because your circumstances have changed, you've got to stop practicing, right? You can still practice. It might just look a bit different from day to day. So again, keep that attention to the breath. And maybe notice what parts of the body are feeling that breath a bit more. So maybe your back body, as you inhale, you can feel that bit more of expansion through the back ribs, maybe your lower back. And then on your exhale, you might be able to drop those hips down a bit more, so those hips get a little heavier. And we'll stay for about 5 more cycles. Take another breath in and another breath out. And then with your next inhale, let's try and reach those hands forward a little further. So if that means lifting the chest a bit more and lifting the head, do that. And then see if you can come onto your fingertips. So your palms are lifted here. And you're just reaching through those fingers. Your elbows are lifted off the ground. And see if you can feel a bit more stretch through the side body. Keep your hips heavy, back and down, and your fingers reaching in the opposite direction of those sit bones. Take another breath in and a breath out. And then let's walk those hands towards the left. Keep reaching them away from you. And then see if you can reach your right hand just a little further. So we're concentrating on a stretch through the right side of the body. Keep sinking your right sit bone down. Breath in. And breath out. And again, maybe still on your fingers, palms are lifted. Walk your hands back through center and then take them towards the right side. And then walk your left hand just a little further. So again, now emphasizing a stretch through the left side. Breath in. And breath out. As you inhale, those fingers come back through center. Get one more stretch, reach a little further. And then on your exhale, make it more restful. So allow those elbows to drop, the palms to lower onto the ground, the head to relax down. See if you can feel a bit more space in the chest as it drops towards the mat. Breath in. And breath out. And then with your next inhale, walk your hands back towards you and make your way into a table pose. So those hands are going to be under the shoulders and now those hips straight over those knees. Take a moment and look at your fingers and see if you can spread your fingers, find a bit more space between them, not too much though, and then press through your fingerprints. So you might feel your knuckles or the middle joints of your fingers lift slightly. And then keep those joints a bit lifted, a little bent, and then press through the base of your fingers. Okay, so it's almost like you clawing the mat, but you're not clawing the mat with the fingertips, it's with the fingerprints. Okay, and then see if you can keep that clawing. So you're sending some weight into your fingers, into the base of your fingers, so your wrists or the base of your hands are not taking all the weight. And then from here, tuck your toes. So now your toes are kind of drawing or pointing forward. The soles of the feet are getting a good stretch. And now as you inhale, drop the belly, bring the chest forward, and then lift your gaze. Your sit bones are broadening and lifting. And then on your exhale, round your spine. Draw those sit bones down and in. Draw the head or the chin towards your chest. Let's do that again. Inhale into your cow pose, finding space in your chest, throat. Exhale, rounding to find space in that back body. Do this a couple more times. Inhale, slow it down. And exhale, see if you can draw the belly towards your spine as you do this. One more time. Inhale. And round. Exhale. And then find neutral spine, untuck your toes, tops of the feet to the mat, and give the tops of the feet a little press down. Okay? So imagine you were pressing down and see if you can feel a little lightness through your knees. So there's a bit more weight into the tops of your feet and shins rather than all into the knees. Keep pushing the floor away with your hands. Take one more inhale. And then on your exhale, return to child's pose. Sit bones towards the heels. We'll just stay here for 3 breaths. Your arms might slide forward, or if it's more comfortable, bring those arms in. You could hold opposite elbows and head rest towards the ground. One more inhale. And exhale. Now with your next inhale, we're returning into that table pose. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And this time your right arm is going to reach to the side, up towards the ceiling, so your torso opens to the right. And then on your exhale, right hand threads and reach it to your left. And again, inhale, let's open. Exhale, thread. Inhale, open. And now on your exhale, thread and see if you can lower your shoulder towards the mat and your head also towards the ground. Okay? If it's too far away, block or blanket under the head can be helpful. Taking 3 cycles of breath right here. A few options. You could stay. If you're feeling stable, your left arm might reach up towards the ceiling. If that is too much, you could walk your left fingers forward. So straightening that left arm, but still fingers on the ground. Another breath in. And breath out. And then return that left hand by your face. And as you inhale, press into that left hand, open up again towards the right, maybe gaze up too. And on your exhale, hand lowers to the ground. Switching sides, same thing. Left arm reaches out, up. You're opening the chest towards your left. And then as you exhale, thread that arm, reach towards the right. And then again, open, inhale. Thread, exhale. And open, inhale. And now as you thread on the exhale, lower shoulder, lower side of the head. So your gaze is to the right. And then you could stay, perfectly fine to stay here. Or you could reach your right arm up. Or you could send that arm forward, fingers on the ground. Breath in. And breath out. One more inhale. See if you can press that left shoulder towards the mat. Exhale. And then return your right hand. And inhale, open up towards your left. And as you exhale, left hand to the mat. And you back into your table pose. Take a moment, shift your weight from side to side. Maybe you lift one knee and the other. Maybe you take it a bit further and find some side stretches. So almost like making a C shape with your body. Going from side to side, finding some space in the waist. And then returning through center, neutral spine. And from here, let's make our way into downward facing dog. So tuck your toes, lift your knees, and then lift your hips up and back. Sending weight into those heels and pushing the floor away with those hands. Press through your fingerprints. Press through the base of your hand. Breath in. Remember, you can have a bend in your knees here. Breath out. And that might allow your sit bones to lift a little higher. So you're still getting the stretch through the backs of your legs. One more inhale. And exhale. Now with your next inhale, walk those feet towards your hands. And on your exhale, find a forward fold. Hold the opposite elbows, shift your weight forward and back. And if you're looking at your toes, wiggle them a bit, lift them, spread them out, soften them back down. Take another breath. And then with a slight bend in your knees, release those elbows, head heavy, arms heavy, where we are rising up to stand. Once you get to the top, roll those shoulders up by your ears, release them down the back, and turn your palms forward. Your mountain pose, take a breath in. Take a breath out. Reach your arms overhead as you inhale, and then on your exhale, bring those hands behind you, interlace them at your lower back, send the knuckles down, open your chest, so feel your shoulder blades come close together. As you do this, engage through your glutes, lower belly drawing open in. Take another breath in. A breath out. Release those hands, reach your arms towards the ceiling. Find a bend in your knees, forward fold as you exhale. Halfway lift on the inhale. Exhale and fold. Now on your inhale, bend both knees and rise into chair pose, reaching your arms overhead. And as you exhale, lower those arms down by your side and maybe reach them back behind you. Again, inhale, lift your arms, keep that bend in your knees. Exhale, lower arms. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. Now with your next inhale, lift those arms, straighten legs. And as you exhale, left arm down, side stretch. Come back through center, inhale. Other side, exhale. Back through center, inhale. Forward fold, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Plant your hands, step your feet back, downward facing dog, exhale. Now on your inhale, roll out into a plank pose, shoulders over wrists. As you exhale, move back into downward facing dog. 2 more times with your own breath. And see if you can use the whole inhale to come out into a plank. So you might need to slow things down. And then your whole exhale to move back into downward facing dog. Now in downward facing dog, full breath in. And on your exhale, lower your knees to the mat, come into table pose. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Left leg will rise, inhale. Now bend that knee and find circles with your left knee. And then switch direction. And then with your next inhale, straighten that leg all the way out behind you. And as you exhale, draw that knee into your chest and round your spine. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, knee to the outside of your left elbow. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, knee crosses underneath you, right elbow. Inhale, lengthen. And now on your exhale, return that knee to the mat, coming back to table. Switching sides, right leg now rises. Bend that knee and find your circles on this side. Remember that breath. And then switch direction. And then as you inhale, leg straightens out behind you. Exhale, knee to chest, rounding your spine. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, outside of your right elbow. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, it's crossing towards your left elbow, so under the body. Inhale, lengthen, and return that knee to the mat. Exhale. From here, hands wide, and then keeping your knees and hips in line, walk your hands forward. And as you walk your hands forward, chest drops towards the ground. And maybe try here, keeping your elbows lifted. And maybe you come again onto your fingertips, just like we did earlier in that child's pose. So you're still allowing your chest to drop towards the ground. Your gaze could be straight towards the mat. But there's a bit more action through your arms right now. Full breath in and full breath out. And then walk those hands back towards you. And then from here, make your way into downward facing dog. Tuck those toes, lift knees, lift hips. In your down dog, just take a moment, look from side to side, breathing in and breathing out. So imagine here the weight of your head stretching the neck. Okay, so you want to stay active through your upper back, drawing the shoulder blades towards your hips, and then heavy through the top of your head. One more breath in, and breath out. On the inhale, walking those feet towards the hands towards the feet, and let's find a forward fold, taking a moment here. If it's comfortable, grab opposite elbows, a bend in your knees, breath in, and breath out. And now releasing those elbows, bending those knees, once again, visiting chair pose, reaching your torso up, arms up. And then on your exhale, just left arm lowers by your side and maybe back. And then inhale, lift. Exhale, right arm lowers. Inhale, lift. Again, left arm lowers. Inhale, lift. And right arm lowers. On the inhale, lift, and now straighten legs. And on your exhale, right arm down by your side, side stretch. Back through center, other side, exhale. Back through center, On your exhale, hands behind you. Find the opposite interlace of the one you used before, so it might be the one that feels a bit more awkward. And then again, straighten those elbows, reach those knuckles down and back. And then feel that opening again in the chest. Breath in. And breath out. Releasing those hands, arms lift on the inhale. And now as you exhale, we're going to send the left leg back and we're going to step it into warrior two. Okay, so let's go into a little bit of alignment once we get into warrior two. So if you want, whilst I kind of blabber here a bit, get your hands or your shoulders to rest. So you could bring your hands down or you could bring them at your heart. Sometimes holding those arms here for a while is kind of taxing for shoulders. So your warrior two alignment, that front heel more or less in line with that back arch. Your toes, front toes are pointing straight forward. And to protect that front knee, you want to try and get the knee more or less in line with your ankle. And the front of your knee or center is pointing in the same direction as your middle toe. Okay, so that's a good alignment to keep, especially with this front leg, because some of the things that happen is that this front knee goes in like that, and that's kind of not that stable. Okay, so encourage that knee to open up and to point straight forward. Okay, and then let's focus on that back leg for a moment. Okay, so front knee is opening, back leg is going in. So there's internal rotation through your back leg. So sometimes it helps to think about the back toes not being totally pointing out to the side, but slightly angled towards the front of your mat, and just slightly, okay? But that's encouraging this internal rotation to happen through that back leg, and that's going to give you a bit more stability. Okay, so let's work on those legs, draw belly to spine, and then now, yes, let's bring those arms out. Gaze is over those front fingers. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. And another breath in. And breath out. We're going to take it a little further. So with your next inhale, turn your palm, front palm up, and let's reach it up and back. Back hand is going to go towards that back leg. As you do this, keep that bend in that front knee. Don't be like too eager to go back. Think about space in this right side of your torso. Breath in and breath out. And then as you inhale, return through your warrior two. And on your exhale, bend your right elbow, plant your forearm on your thigh, and then bring your left arm by your ear. Okay, so the more you bend into your front knee, the more shelf you'll have for that arm. And then you'll be able to lower those hips and get that long line from top fingers all the way to back foot. Breath in and breath out. Use the next inhale to rise up. We're straightening that front leg now, and that's probably going to feel nice. We're turning the toes towards the long edge of the mat. So now you've got all 10 toes pointing in that same direction. Hands to your hips. Take a full breath in. And then on your exhale, we're folding forward. So hinge at your hips, bending your knees if you need to, and let that torso come down. Now releasing your hands. Your hands could come to your shins, or if the floor is available or you've got your blocks nearby, plant them on the floor or blocks. Halfway lift on the inhale, so neutral spine. And then as we exhale, fold. Let's do 2 more like that. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, half lift. And on your exhale, fold. See if this is a comfortable forward fold. Find an extra bend in those knees. Stay here for another breath in, allowing the head just to drop. Arms heavy. Breath out. One more. And then let's use the next inhale to slowly lift that spine. Again, bending the knees here. And then once you get to the top, return to your warrior two. So right toes pointing again towards the top of the mat. Bend into that front knee. Reach those fingers forward and back. See if this warrior two now feels a little different from the first one. One thing that you also can think about here is don't be also too eager to go forward. Torso is going to come back. So your spine is more or less perpendicular to the ground. Both legs take the same weight. One more breath. On your exhale, we're coming into downward facing dog. So we're going to cartwheel those hands. See if you can reach the floor. And then turn your back toes and step your front foot back. And you're back in your downward facing dog. Breath in. And breath out. One more inhale. And exhale. From downward facing dog, lift your heels. And then on your exhale, lower your knees to the mat. Come into a table pose. Hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. If it's comfortable to untuck the toes, tops of the feet are going to be onto the mat. Press down through them. And then with your next inhale, your right leg is going to rise behind you. On your exhale, cross that foot over to the left, plant the ball of the foot, and then push the heel away and get a nice stretch through the back of the leg and then through that outer right hip. So draw that right hip down and in. Full breath in. On your exhale, turn your gaze towards that right foot. So now the whole side, right side of the body gets a nice stretch. Imagine that you were trying to push your right ribs towards the right. One more breath. And then return through center, right leg lifts. And on your exhale, lower it down, back into your table pose. Let's do the same thing now with the left side. So left leg rises, inhale. If your wrists are getting tired, you might try this on your forearms. Okay, you don't need as much clearance with the mat with this, so this might work too. Or if you've got blocks, bring the forearms onto the blocks. Anyway, left leg is going to cross over. And we're going to plant the ball of the foot, push the heel away. Draw that left hip in and down. And see if you can feel that stretch through the outer left hip. And then you could add the gaze looking towards that left foot. On your forearms, it will be not as free, so you might not get as much stretch through the torso, through that left side, left ribs. But still, you might get some. Breath in. And breath out. Returning through center on the inhale, lengthen that leg out. And then as you exhale, return the knee to the mat. Come back into your table pose. And from here, make your way back into downward facing dog. Full breath in. And long breath out. And then walking those feet to the hands, those hands to the feet. We'll meet in a forward fold, taking a moment there. Breathing in. Breathing out. And then using the next inhale, bending into those knees, coming back into chair pose. This time bringing hands to the heart, taking a moment here. If you want a little challenge for balance, you could play with lifting a heel. So right heel can lift on the inhale, and then lower, and then left heel lifts, and lower. Do one more at a time, or maybe both heels lift. It's a tricky one, so take yourself lightly here. And then heels lower. And then straighten legs, reach your arms all the way up. Side stretch, exhale. Back through center, inhale. Other side, exhale. Back through center, inhale. And we're going to find our warrior two now on the other side. So I'm just switching direction so I face the camera, but it's your right leg that's going to step back. And we're going to find our alignment here. So again, I'm going to talk a bit. So get your shoulders out of the way, relax them, and let's focus on those legs once again. Okay, and sides will be different, so adapt your warrior two to that too. Be careful with like balance, right? Because in warrior two, you know, we're kind of on, the feet are on a tightrope, right? They're kind of in line. So sometimes that means like we can kind of fall back a bit. So make sure that you find some stability through your legs. Okay, press down through your feet. Try to engage through your right glute. So the leg that's behind you is not dead weight there, or it's not, it's actually doing quite a bit. If you engage through that thigh, through that right glute, is going to stabilize your posture too. Okay? Think about the bend in the front knee. Don't be too eager to go really far out, but also don't have your warrior two very closed up, because then you're going to bend. You've not got much space to bend into that front knee. And then it gets to a point that if the knee is beyond the ankle, you're not as stable, right? So you want to kind of find that sweet spot that will work for you. Okay? Other important thing here is to draw the belly in and up. So your tailbone is dropping towards the ground, okay? Rather than the bum sticking out, okay? It's kind of tucking in, and that will help too with stability. And then again, we've got that slight internal rotation happening through the back leg, that front knee tracking towards your pinky, so opening, and then those arms are reaching forward and back, and the gaze tells you as well about the direction of the pose, right? Your gaze is over those front fingers. So you're not completely open to the side. There's a bit of a turn towards the front. Breath in. Breath out. See if you can get to a place in which, you know, there's action and something happening, but some comfort and some ease. One more breath. And then let's go for our reverse warrior. So that front palm turns, and then reach it up and back. No change in your legs. Okay? So again, it's not about how far you go, but about feeling the stretch and staying stable, grounded. And then with your next inhale, come back through your warrior two. Bend that front elbow, forearm rests on your thigh, and then your right arm can come all the way by your ear. So your palm is facing down. Your fingers are reaching away from that back foot. Breath in and breath out. With your next inhale, we're rising up, and then straighten that front leg, and just like we did previously, turn the toes. They're pointing the outer edge of your mat. Sometimes you might need to readjust your feet. Bring hands to your hips. Inhale, open chest, find lift. And then as you exhale, hinge through your hips, reach your chest forward and down. And you're coming into a forward fold. We're going to do a few half lifts. So with your next inhale, neutral spine, lift, crown of the head reaches forward. As you exhale, crown of the head drops towards the floor. Two more times. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. One more. Inhale, lift. And on your exhale, fold. Find a generous bend in those knees. Holding maybe opposite elbows, and if it's comfortable to hang here, take a moment. Remember, anytime we're relaxing the front of the top of the body, you need some stability. So legs are strong here, okay? Legs are not relaxing here. You know, you're pressing through your feet, you're really feeling stable and grounded, and that will allow that upper body to relax a little further. One more breath in and breath out. And then from here, your hands could transfer to your hips. Keep your chin tucked towards your chest and unroll that spine as you make your way up. Return into that warrior two. So your left toes are going to point again towards the top or the short edge of your mat. Reach your arms forward and back. Pause here for a moment. See how your warrior two feels now. See if you can take a deep breath in. And a long breath out. And then one more inhale. And then on your exhale, we'll go into our downward facing dog. So those hands are going to come towards the mat. And then that front foot is going to step back and downward facing dog. Full breath in. And full breath out. So imagine downward facing dog being that place where you can reset, where you let go of the poses that happened before and you just clean the slate. See, making space for what's going to happen next. One more breath. And if that's not happening in downward facing dog, feel free to lower your knees down to find a different position, whether it's a table pose or a child's pose. Either way, we'll take another breath in. And then we'll all meet actually in a child's pose. So let's lower those knees to the mat. Sit bones towards the heels. And chest towards the thighs, towards the ground. Head relaxes. And again, see if you can make your child's pose a comfortable place. Okay, you could use some of the options that we mentioned at the beginning of practice. Or the body might be a little bit more open now and you might not need some of those props. You might be able to relax a little further towards the ground. Let's take 3 cycles of breath. And then with your next inhale from your child's pose, walk those fingers back towards you, lifting your spine. So you're going to be standing on your knees for a moment here. We're going to lift those hips in line with those knees. And you choose here if you want to keep your toes untucked or if you want to tuck the toes. And if standing on the knees here is not that great, sometimes, a bit of cushioning on them will help. And if it's too much, just skip this for a moment. We won't be here very long. From here, imagine that from your knees through your hips to your shoulders and even maybe crown of the head is all one line, one kind of plank. And we're going to just go back and forth with this plank. Okay, so let's take a full breath in, reach the crown of the head high. And then on the exhale, you're just going to lean back. And then inhale, come back up. If you need a little counterweight, bring your arms out in front of you. Take another breath in at center. Exhale, come back. Lean back. Draw belly to spine. Inhale, come back through center. And again, exhale, going back. There you go, nice job. Last one, inhale, back through center. And back. And now on your inhale, come back through center. And then from here, lower your hands, turn your toes or your feet to the side, and then lower your sit bones all the way to the mat, coming into a seat and those legs in front of you. And once you are here, the feet are going to come wide as your mat, your hands to your shins. And we're finding some cows and cats. So as you inhale, bring your chest forward. Think about that chest coming through the legs and then lifting. And then on your exhale, return and go back, rounding the spine, chin to chest. Now let's bring some awareness to those sit bones. So as you come forward on your inhale, imagine coming onto the tips of your sit bones. And then as you roll back, if it's comfortable, think about coming onto the sacrum. And then again, inhale, coming forward. Exhale and back. Let's do it one more time. Inhale, forward. And exhale, back. And then find a neutral spine right here. And then lift your feet. Lift your the soles of the feet so your heels stay planted. Bring the hands behind you or outside, kind of out a bit for support, lifting the spine. And then on the inhale, we're going to turn the left toes towards the left and the right toes towards the right. Okay? And then as you inhale, bring them back. And then again, exhale, open. So those knees are opening. And we're kind of like looking a little bit like a frog here. Inhale again, up. Exhale, open. And inhale. And again, exhale. And now see if you can stay with those knees wide. Notice the feet are flexed and the knee is still pointing in the same direction as your toes. So again, we're keeping that alignment. And what we're doing is we're rotating through the hip. So we're still protecting those knees as we do this. Okay. Let's take another breath in, lengthen, lift through your spine. Breath out. And then as you inhale, bring those knees back through center. And now plant the whole foot. Okay. Bring those feet to hip width. And we're coming all the way down onto our backs. Okay. So if you want to do it, working that core, press down through your toes, reach your arms in front of you. Full breath in. Exhale halfway. Give your shoulders a roll, open up the chest. Find some ease. Take another inhale. Now on your exhale, draw belly to spine and see if you can lower the lower back first. And then lower the back ribs. Lower your shoulder blades. And then lower your head. And maybe now, back body totally supported on the mat. Take a breath in. And open mouth, exhale. And then from here, just draw those knees into your chest. One hand is going to be on each knee. And we're finding separate circles with the knees. So once again, rotation in those hips. And then in the opposite direction. And then from here, we're going to go into a twist. So we're going to send those knees towards the left. You could do that with the knees close to your chest and kind of in a little ball, or you could do it with your feet on the ground. Okay, that right sit bone, right glute is going to lift, but see if you can keep your upper back planted. So your right shoulder or right shoulder blade will stay as close to the mat as you can. And you could open up your right arm out into a T. You could find a cactus arm here, elbow bent. And see if you can encourage that right side of your upper back to stay down, to stay grounded. And then your knees to go in the opposite direction. So right now they're going towards the left. Pausing here. If you want to add a little twist to the neck, you could look towards the right. Take another breath in. and out. And then return those knees back through center. And then we'll prepare for the other side. If you want in between, just give yourself a little hug here. And then when you're ready, taking those knees towards the right. And again, you could have them close to the chest or a little lower. Just see what works for you best right now, what feels best. And then your left arm can come out. It could come straight out into a T. Or a bend in the elbows sometimes allows that shoulder to relax a bit more towards the ground. So those cactus arms could help here to get that back, that upper back, a bit more neutral onto your mat. And here again, the gaze now could go to the left. But if that adds strain, tension that is not necessary, just look straight up, close your eyes. And then, of course, notice the breath. And the breath gets interesting in twists because there's a bit less space for expansion as you breathe in. So you've got to make a bit more effort to expand. And then as you exhale, you can deepen a bit the twist just by drawing the belly towards the spine. So a couple more breaths. And then as you inhale, return yourself through center. And once again, give those knees a hug here. So your arms could wrap around your shins or behind your thighs. And then this might be enough. Think about also lifting a bit the tailbone. But also you could think about lifting the head. So you could bring that forehead towards your knees. Restore some space in that back body after the twist. Take a breath in. And then on your exhale, release. Release the legs, plant your feet, let your knees bend, and then let your knees rest against one another. Your hands can rest at your belly. And let's take 3 deep inhales, meaning that the belly expands as you breathe in. And then 3 long exhales, lowering the belly away from the hands as you breathe out. And one more. And then you might stay in this position or find one that is more comfortable. And we're going to spend, so let's see, we've got about 8 minutes, these last 8 minutes of practice in stillness through that physical body. And then the only thing that's going to be moving is our attention. And we're going to try to exert some agency over our attention, and that's no easy task. So don't take yourself too seriously, and just notice when the attention goes off other places, and know that just that exercise of noticing that is happening, that's a really good practice. So once you're in a comfortable position, just bring your attention to your right foot, and more specifically to the big toe on that right foot. You might already be noticing something happening in that foot, that toe. Or there might be nothing to notice right now. No obvious sensation, no obvious response. Still keep that attention there. Visualize that big toe. Visualize it in space and in relationship to the rest of your body. And whatever you notice, notice, including no sensation, no specific thoughts, feelings, or emotions. And then move that attention from that big toe up the top of your foot to the front of that right ankle. And then all the way up the shin and to the right knee. And stay with the front of the knee for a moment, noticing whatever you notice. Maybe physical sensation, maybe the air around that knee or clothing on that knee. Maybe deeper in the joint sensation just because of the history that knee has. But again, maybe no sensation, no obvious feeling. And you can also notice that. Guide that attention up the thigh of that right leg, through that right hip, through the right side of the ribs, armpit, and to that right shoulder. And see if you can stay with the front of the shoulder, at the skin level, contact with clothing or air, sensations that might come up because of that. But then maybe deeper in the joint, maybe visualize the arm bone, making that connection to the torso. Any sensations that might come up because it is your shoulder. But again, maybe none of that, and that is also something to notice. And then let's move up the right side of the neck, through the right ear, and then all the way to the top of the head. Imagine that point on the top of the head that is furthest away from your tailbone. And again, as you pause here, notice whatever you notice. And now moving down through the face, coming down through the center of the forehead, space between eyebrows, nose, lips, and chin. Down the throat, to that space between the collarbones, and then transitioning to the left side of the body, to that left shoulder. And then moving down that left arm, through the elbow, forearm, wrist, and then all the way to the pinky finger. Sometimes there's an urge to move, just to create some sensation. Make sure the pinky finger is still there. But if you can stop yourself just before that reaction, notice that you can still bring attention to that finger without creating any obvious sensation. There might be already sensations there that you can notice. But again, we don't depend on noticing a sensation. We can also notice that there's no sensation right now. And then we're going to move back through the arm, up to the shoulder. And then moving down the left side of the body, the left side of your rib cage, the waist, and then pausing at your left hip. And then see if you can stay with the front of that left hip for a moment. Again, maybe skin level sensations that come along because of this, of clothing or air, any other sensation. And then see if you can come a little deeper into that hip joint. And just noticing again what might be there, including no sensation or no obvious feeling. And now moving down that left thigh, through the left knee, through the shin, through the ankle. And then we'll end with attention on the pinky toe on that left foot. Maybe noticing an urge to move it. See if you can pause. Keep that stillness. Notice whatever you notice. And then now broaden that attention to all 10 toes. And then to include both feet. To include both legs, hips. To include the torso. Both arms, hands and fingers. To include the neck and the head. And then to include that breath, taking a deeper breath in. And maybe exhaling out with a sigh. And then just very gently use your breath to find movement in your fingers, in your toes, your ankles, your wrists. Maybe a bit of movement through your neck. Any other movement that might feel good right now. And if you were on your back, eventually rolling onto one side and then pausing there, taking a breath in and taking a breath out. And then we'll make our way up to find a comfortable seat if you're not already there. And we'll bring hands to heart. So as always, let's take a moment to acknowledge the practice, to acknowledge ourselves for practicing today, to acknowledge all those who have practiced with us, and then all those who make it possible. And we'll end with a word that means that the light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Namaste.